Well, welcome back everybody to the Campbell Chronicles. I'll turn my video on here. Another episode of the Campbell Chronicles. Last time you joined us, we were talking about Star Wars, all things Star Wars. We're going to continue that trend. We do have some exciting new news to discuss today, mainly about some announcements that were made to the Mandalorian show that's coming out. We're also going to be discussing some of our favorite parts of the original trilogy, starting with A New Hope. I'd like to welcome back a couple guests that you've seen before. First off, we have Brady. Say hi, Brady.
Hey, can we hear me now?
We should be able to hear. We are going to be going through some tests since we've had so many technical difficulties. I got my wife who's checking in and making sure our sound is coming through just fine. She's going to be letting us know if we need to make some course corrections along the way. But Brady, welcome back. Nice to have you.
Yeah, good to be back. Also, it's funny that you're looking at the wrong camera.
I know. Well,
I am not.
I'm looking at on Discord. I'm looking at this camera, but I'm streaming on.
Look at me when you're talking to me.
Sorry.
Look at me.
I'm also not visible on your stream.
Here he comes. Welcoming back Kyle. You've seen Kyle before. He's joined our show many times, and we enjoy having him and his opinion. These are both my brothers. They have some very good Star Wars opinions. I'm getting a green light from Emily here, so we'll get this going here.
Green light to engage.
Yeah.
Sick, dog. Sick.
So, guys, let's talk about the new Star Wars news. The biggest thing here, I'm gonna throw it up on the screen real quick.
Wait, there was news?
Yeah, I know, right? The biggest news. By the thumbnail, if you couldn't tell what we're going to talk about first, it's the Mandalorian announced yet some more exciting news. Here, I'm going to throw this up here.
I love exciting news. That's my favorite kind of news. Exciting kind.
For a second there. So we have the Mandalorian Season 2 cast former Jango Fett actor as Boba Fett in the most complicated casting in the galaxy. Okay, I don't know about you guys. This is kind of cool, right? Am I overreacting a little bit? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I'm interested just off that headline. What was complicated? I think if I quote the sage Harrison Ford as to why he reprised Han Solo's role, his answer was because they paid me.
Yeah,
sure.
So I'm curious as to why this guy was hard to nail for casting.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it. I think the complicated part might be the fact that for TV shows, they've been looking. They had another voice actor doing all the work of the clones and Boba Fett and all that. But, check out this. This is on Metro News.
Okay.
They're fairly reliable. I haven't seen anything in this article that would strike me as to otherwise. But go check this out. Go read it. It just goes into detail about who Jango Fett is and then who his son Boba Fett is. And now correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and close this screen here. I'll bring you guys back up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Mandalorian have Boba Fett's armor somewhere there in one of the episodes?
No, there was one Mandalorian that had a similar paint scheme, but it wasn't.
It wasn't him. Okay. Yeah, I thought somebody had.
Unless you're going all in on the fact that person on Tatooine that walked up at the end of the episode was Boba.
Yeah, I think that's where everybody was like, "Well, that has to be him. He's got the face stirrups on."
Yeah. I could honestly see them doing that because last place we saw Boba Fett was Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the character Boba Fett for a second. Do you guys think he's an underrated character, or because obviously the pop culture, he's blown up, and the amount of screen time he had was very minimal in the movies. He got a lot more in the Clone Wars, right? So do you guys think it's even fair to bring him back? Do you think they're doing it because he's a fan favorite, or do you really think that they're going to serve the Star Wars community here well? What do you think?
I think it depends on who you ask, right? Because if you talk to people that were really invested in the expanded universe, you got to see a lot more of Boba Fett and how he came back there. And a lot of people that are huge fans of his are a huge fan of his because of a lot of that stuff. They got to explore a lot of his character there. that you just don't see in the films. In the films, he has a grand total of what, like 5-10 minutes of screen time or something like that. And he doesn't even say that much.
Right.
Doesn't even do that much. He was a cool looking guy, and he played like one important role in the movies. But other than that, yeah, if you're asked to someone that just knew of Boba Fett because of the movies, I would understand why someone would say he was overrated.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the diehards, yeah.
I think it's important also to note that like the reason why he's popular isn't just because he looks awesome. I mean, from at least my interactions with people that are really diehard Boba Fett fans, is like you take Han Solo, the most smuggler out there. Who's the one guy that could bring him in?
Yeah.
And so I think that's like a really good point in Boba Fett's corner of his awesomeness. But I don't know, like I kind of err on the side of he's a little overrated, but if you like him and you're all about Boba, then more power to you. I have my fan favorites.
I think something also. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that was pretty much it, really.
I was just going to add something on top of the character, like you were talking about, is you can't separate Boba Fett from his ship.
Right.
But part of the reason why he was so cool is that he had this really cool looking ship.
Yeah.
And you just got more of that too from in the prequels too. I was flying through the asteroid ring around Geonosis with those seismic charges and all that. It was really cool.
That was awesome.
So
yeah,
that's always a thing in Star Wars, right? It's not just about people; it's also about the cool spaceships.
Yeah.
He had a really cool one.
Didn't they later go back to like Empire Strikes Back and actually update the sound of Slave One? You know what I'm talking about? Because they didn't really have much to go on, but obviously in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, the asteroid field they were talking about, it had this really distinct engine sound to it, right? You know what I'm talking about? How it had like this little crackle to the engine. It was really cool. I loved it. I think I honestly I'll have to go do some fact checking here, but I honestly think they went back later and added that sound from Episode 2 into Empire Strikes Back. So there's Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte.
Charlotte. My kid. She wanted to get on the conversation too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, if she really does, by all means. So yeah.
I think she just wanted fruit snacks.
So what do you think this does for the future? I mean, obviously, this isn't the first character they've brought back, right? They've brought back Maul. Maul was dead, right? He was cut in half, and now all of a sudden, he's back, and I liked it. I at first I was like, oh well, come on, but I'm glad they brought him back. He's a very good character, and if you watch the Rebels season and all the Rebel shows and the Clone Wars shows, you get to see a really good story arc there. So I really like that.
He was very pivotal into the Rebels and Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think that goes to show that just because a guy dies in the movies doesn't mean they can't have a second life in the small screen space.
Yeah.
I think, and especially since the same creative people that were in charge of bringing Darth Maul back to life are the same people that are in charge of the Mandalorian now, that being Dave Filoni. I think if anybody's going to do that and going to do that well, I don't know who better to do it than Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot to be said about that too, because they're obviously huge Star Wars fans first and foremost. They wouldn't have taken such great care with it, with the Mandalorians at all if they weren't, right?
Right.
That being said, I think I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. When you say this, like the small screen, with their names attached to it, and with Disney Plus being ever growing as it is, I dare say that soon there will be a point where the Mandalorian show has just as much, if not more, exposure than the mainline Star Wars movies. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
If it hasn't already.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
so
it has a lot of pull for
relevance. We may see an age very soon where Star Wars does shift from a movie theatrical release focused franchise to more just Disney Plus. I mean, not to say that those movies won't be huge still. Sure. I still think that those are going to be cultural phenomenons, but
sure.
I mean, the focus does seem to be shifting towards more Disney Plus. Let's get a show out there.
Yeah.
But let's not pay for theaters to play our movie,
And I think
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say I think Disney Plus is a place where a lot of these series can grow, like, and they can spread their legs out and really get running, with a lot of this stuff, right? Because they're not beholden to a 2-hour time limit, right? So they can play around with any kind of theme, any kind of character. They can have seasons to build out these things, right?
Yeah.
And also to add to Kyle's point about the small screen stuff becoming just as popular, if not more popular than the big screen stuff, is that Exhibit A is the Baby Yoda stuff, like how in demand the Baby Yoda merch was over Christmas,
Sure.
Like, come on, no one was running out to the stores to find a Rey doll or a Finn doll or a Kylo Ren doll.
Sadly,
like, no one was doing that.
No.
No one was doing that. Everybody was looking for Baby Yoda.
Everyone loves
Plushes
Baby
or whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And aside from the point, I think they kind of dropped the ball on that. Also, I want to comment something. So Bob Chapek, the CEO of Disney right now, he was recently brought in
Another
last
Bob.
year. Another Bob.
Bob the second.
Replacing Bob Iger. Bob
Bob the
Chapek
second.
has said that he has plans for Star Wars. He wants to make it just as big, if not bigger, than the MC universe, the Marvel comic universe. I honestly think that's great. I think that's great for Star Wars. That means that they're going to, in the future, they're going to put a lot of attention towards it. I don't think that's a tall order, though. I mean, the Marvel universe is really, really good. They took their time to do it right. And so for Disney to come in and say, I want to do that with Star Wars, I think they can do it. I don't know if it's going to be able to top it, though. And I love Star Wars. I hope it does, honestly. I hope it does. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do that.
I'm of the mind, too, that, like, I don't think Star Wars was ever meant to be that. We're talking space opera fantasy,
Right.
Superheroes are very much serialized, bite-sized content that every once in a while they have a really cool crossover event, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then they start over. Star Wars is meant to have an ongoing story. We're about to see a huge borderlines reboot in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with all the characters we loved gone,
Yeah.
So
and I think that's why things like The Mandalorian and like Clone Wars, Rebels, those shows, I think that's why they're so important, because they've showed that they can do stuff like that, right?
Sure.
And even the announcements with bringing Boba Fett back, and we haven't talked about Ahsoka coming in, like that's all. They're already laying that groundwork.
Yeah.
And the reception so far has been positive. I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but just the idea that Ahsoka and Boba Fett are going to be in a live action TV show is driving the fan base wild.
Well,
so I think they're moving in the right direction.
They're bringing Ahsoka, right? I've always liked the character of Ahsoka, and until Disney.
Did you always like her?
Well, okay, sorry. I guess not. I can't say honestly, because before Disney announced Clone Wars as canon, I really didn't care. I didn't care too much. I liked the show. I watched the movie, but I didn't really feel like it had any place in the universe. But once they announced it as canon, and that was my trigger. I was like, okay, now I'm going to go watch these, and it was really good. And I'll be honest, watching the whole story arc, the character arc with Ahsoka, and then her leaving the Jedi Order, that was I mean, not only good writing, but that was good.
Huge.
Right? I mean, all around, I don't have anything bad to say about Ahsoka. The only, I guess I do. I get that little side run she had with her little friends in the last season.
But that's not her.
That's just the writing, right?
Yeah.
The character.
But even then, those
itself,
weren't the worst episodes of the entire run of the show, though, and that says something.
You still have the poison episode. So
I think it's incredible what they did with that character too, because I remember going to see that the original Clone Wars movie in the theater, and seeing that character for the first time, and just hearing her and how they wrote her. It was like, what is happening, and why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I remember she was not received very well at all at the beginning.
Right. They thought she was a Mary Sue, the nickname, teeny bopper clothing. Yeah,
she was a tiny little brat, and no one really liked her.
Yeah.
But I think that speaks volumes, though, as to what the creative team were able to do, right? Because they grew her. She grew with the show, and until now she's She's huge,
Yeah.
and she's awesome. She's a new breed of Force user that is incredibly important to the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Ahsoka. I'm trying to spell that for the audience here, but
Ha.
AH, right?
Ahsoka. Yeah.
Ahsoka. Um. So yeah, I agree. I really do agree. And then I just watched. So I finished season 7, and with Rex and Ahsoka, right? And then I jumped straight into Rebels, and I watched the last few episodes of season 2 where Ahsoka faces off Darth Vader. Oh
Man.
my gosh, the way they did that, the writing. Now, it was a puzzle, right? Because they did season 6. They finished season 6 of Clone Wars and they stopped. So we had minimal to go on. But then they started writing Rebels, and Rebels was great. They did really good there. I dropped my camera here. Sorry guys, hang on.
What happened?
My camera dropped. There it goes. It came back. So anyways, you guys are all shouted out too. Let's see what's going on here. I drop you and bring you back. Oh, that's why. Don't switch. Okay, sorry guys. So they had this. Then they started writing Rebels, right? And that was really good.
Yep.
And then they were able to somehow come back. Well, let me give an example. There was a distinct part in Rebels where Rex says, "We fought with all the way to the siege of Mandalore." And that little thing right there. And then they come back and they write that in for Clone Wars. And that was just really good. I really liked that. And so the writing seemed seamless. And then seeing Ahsoka face off against Vader, who I think honestly she had a feeling the whole time it was him, but just didn't want to believe it. I mean, would you?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to believe that.
I wouldn't. Yeah, it was her master. It was the person that practically raised her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She wouldn't want to do that. Yeah. And they really nailed like the whole emotional impacts of what that meant to. Yeah. It was really well done. And I think just those pieces what you're talking about right now is just proof that if given the time, given the resources, they could really nail a universe like a Marvel connected universe or whatever.
Yeah.
They could nail it. They can. They have the ability. They have the creatives to do it. Just looking at the Mandalorian and the Clone Wars and Rebels, just looking at those shows alone, yeah, they could totally nail it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they can. Kyle, what do you think?
I agree. I think they have the availability and the. I mean, Disney will do what Disney wants ultimately, right?
Sure.
Whether it's something that Star Wars fans, I think that's my big hang up overall. It's like I would love Star Wars content that's good no matter what shape or form it takes, honestly, as long as it's good creative content.
Yeah.
But there will be naysayers out there that cause a ruckus and will say that it's not warranted just for the style or just for the approach it's taking, and that's their problem for sure. But I don't happen to be one of those, but I recognize that those people will be out there voicing their negative opinion on it.
Sure.
Yeah. There's always going to be the naysayers, and I mean it's their opinion. They're entitled to it.
Yeah, I honestly think that they can. I'm going to put a lot. I mean, it's not like I have any say, but I think I'm going to put a lot of trust in them in this because I think they can do good. I think that they realize their mistakes from some of the last films that were made. The Mandalorian is already off to a running start. They're doing really good. Yeah,
they started sprinting, man, with that show.
Yeah, and so I honestly think that Boba Fett, he became very popular in the expanded universe, and I think it's just going to turn out to be great. Honestly, but if you guys want to have something to add, go ahead. I'm going to change something real quick here.
Yeah. I would like to add that Star Wars is great.
I would concur with this. In fact, I would say it's really great.
Yeah.
Good. This is a great filling segment.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry, guys. So what happened? I'm not sure exactly if my camera is it's slowing down. I'm just taking that added extra precaution here. I'm just throwing the internal camera on real quick.
You're fine.
I think the last point that I wanted to add to it was that with the movies, right? There was so much expectation put on each one of those sequel movies, right? That it was almost stifling, right? You saw J.J. Abrams kind of launch it out with the Force Awakens. Ryan Johnson came in and he tried to, change things, to give Star Wars a new identity away from what the expectations were.
Yeah.
And then we came back full circle to just meet those expectations with the last movie. I think going forward, not having to meet those expectations because we don't know. I mean, we know what a season of The Mandalorian looks like now. We know what a season of the Clone Wars, what Rebels looks like. We know what those look like, but we don't know what anything else looks like. There are no expectations other than we just want to see some Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, the world is theirs. The ball is in their court. The world is their oyster. The cat's out of the bag.
I got you. Yeah.
Do we have to fill anymore? Or are you good?
No. I think honestly.
Okay.
No, I was actually. I stopped filling. I just started listening to you.
Okay.
In capturing Zach. The
clones attacked back after they returned.
The droids remained clueless.
Roger.
So anyway, we have these new additions. That's the biggest news from this week that I saw come up was Boba Fett being added. We are week prior we had Ahsoka, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Anyways, Ahsoka, and now we also have Sabine too.
Is that
I didn't know if that
proven?
was confirmed or not. I was going to ask if you guys knew. I didn't know
For
if
Sabine?
it was confirmed. Yeah, for Sabine.
I thought they were just rumors. I don't know.
Yeah, the report that I wrote. Let me see if I can't pull it up here real quick. But the report that I read was saying that Ahsoka and Sabine were meant to come in for an episode of The Mandalorian to set up their show that's going to be a sequel to Rebels.
Yeah.
Let me check.
And that would make sense to see them together. I mean, because last time we saw them, they ran off in search of Ezra. So that's totally fine. I sure.
Yeah, it comes by way of comicbook.com. They heard reports from another outlet apparently. But it really all boils down to the numerous reports that have come out that have talked about the next Star Wars show being a Rebels sequel.
Yeah.
The next animated Star Wars show being a Rebels sequel. And yeah, I think Sabine is still kind of on the rumor spectrum, but as a Mandalorian, it only seems natural, that she would show up somehow.
She is another character that had a really good arc.
Yeah, and they didn't really get into her arc. It seemed, I think, until like season 4. They talked a little bit about her past with her friend and the Blood Sisters episode,
the Imperial Academy, and all that.
Yeah, and so I'm excited to see more of Sabine. I think that
I think the last shot of the first season really showed us how far they're willing to go. When you show the Darksaber, you show us that you are willing to talk about any character that has ever existed.
That was seeing that the Darksaber come out of that cockpit. It was like, in my mind, it was like Star Wars was kicking the door wide open.
Yeah,
right,
for anything to happen.
And I remember we watched that episode together. That was fun.
Yeah, it was. I just remember just looking at it and just being so like, really? They're doing this. They're doing this. They kicked that thing. They kicked that door open, and they're just running right through.
Yeah.
Fun fact:
it was really cool.
Darksaber was filmed as like an actual prop. I'm sure there was like some visual effects that went into it in post production, but he had like an actual Darksaber prop.
Yeah. So the latest episode of that, I don't know what they call it, the making of the Mandalorian.
Gallery.
Yeah, the gallery. So they actually show it a little bit. I mean, they don't showcase it, but you definitely get to see it a little bit. And even
Which I
by
thought was
itself,
super
without the special
intriguing.
effects, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Very cool.
and Mandalorian wasn't the first to do this, right? The Mandalorian, the first person, the show that brought relevance to the Clone Wars or to any animated show was Rogue One.
Yeah.
Right? Because they brought in Saw Gerrera, which was originally an animated scripted character, and I can't remember which season of the Clone Wars, and they brought him in as a live action character, which if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't care. It doesn't really change the story of Rogue One at all, but it really makes the whole universe relevant. You got the whole relevance that come from Clone Wars. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the Saw Gerrera thing was happening in tandem.
Yeah.
How it was Rebels, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Rebels. Clone
Rebels
Wars
came in, and yep, he brought him in there too. He was a young Saw Gerrera in the Clone Wars, right?
Oh, I don't remember him being in the Clone Wars.
So he was in the Clone Wars, and then his sister is the one who died.
Yeah, exactly.
Ahsoka couldn't hold on to her, and
his crush, like Saw's sister.
Yeah.
You know how it be.
That's cool. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. It was, so that was the first time that really brought relevance because, they brought Maul back, but he hadn't come into the big screen yet. He did later, but the first one to bring any kind of animated character to the big screen was Saw Gerrera in Rogue One. So I think that really does, and that's what they're trying to do here with Mandalorian, right? They're trying to bring relevance to the whole universe from Clone Wars.
Make it all connected.
All connected, and that's that's going back to what Bob Chapek said. He wants to make it as big, if not bigger, than the MCU. Yeah. We'll see about that.
Yeah, and if we're really going to start talking about that, the whole High Republic stuff that's coming out, that's the proving ground for all of that, right? Because that's where all of the interconnected media is really going to start kicking into gear.
Well, right? How do you mean? Because as of right now, there's not too much canon based on the pre-movie time, right?
Right. So that's the thing, is that everything that we know that happened before the prequels is all expanded universe stuff now. Is all legend stuff.
Sure.
Right. We have bits and pieces of things that are lore now, or that are canon now, that happen, that we have information that happened before the prequel movies.
Yeah.
But nothing to the scale of what we had before with the legend stuff. So with the announcement of the High Republic, they've pretty much decided to say that we're gonna look at that time period, but we're gonna do it in our way.
Yeah.
So it's a fresh slate, but it wouldn't surprise me if they picked up a lot of stuff from the legend stuff, like they did with Thrawn. And put the best pieces into the High Republic stuff. But with the announcement of the High Republic stuff, that's when the announcement came, that how they were going to make everything connected. That was in the same announcement.
Yeah. So
I think they were talking about that stuff, but it's just seeing more. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about, you guys probably know this better than I. Season 6 of the Clone Wars, Yoda goes off to which planet was it? The Sith planet. It wasn't Exegol. Wasn't Malachor.
It wasn't Malachor.
It wasn't Malachor.
Go to the Sith planet. It was just a different world.
What's that? Korriban.
Korriban. Yeah. Okay. So and then he met up with a Sith spirit. I think it says Darth Bane, right?
Darth Bane.
So he's canon.
Too.
And now I'm wondering if the High Republic's going to cover Darth Bane. You know what I mean? Because he's already been set up in a way. So do you think they'll cover him, or is that too ancient? Is that I don't know the timeline. I don't think Disney knows the timeline, or maybe they do. They just haven't told us yet.
No,
as far as canon
that would
goes,
take. No, yeah, that would take that. Oh, sorry, not Korriban. It's Moraband.
Moraband.
Which is very, very close.
Very close.
That was in. That was it. Korriban was in the Old Republic games.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that was.
But also a Sith planet.
Coruscant of their day or whatever.
Yeah.
Where the temple was.
Sorry, what was your question again, Robert?
No, you're. It's about like you guys know
the time frame.
Yeah, the time frame where Darth Bane fits in the whole thing. I don't know. If you guys know, that's fine.
Speculation. Right. I mean, the speculation is that's about the right time. The Sith Empire ended right as the rise of the Grand Republic, as they called it in the legends.
Okay.
And that was about the same time frame. is Darth Bane was one of the last rulers of the Sith Empire, who put in place the rule of two
Right.
to kind of like, because he saw like how infighting within the Sith Empire was kind of breaking up the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
So he created the rule of two. Again, that's all legends now, because even now after the Rise of Skywalker, we're hearing about the whole fake dyad thing is what they were trying to do with the rule of two.
Sure.
So I mean, I could see how they'll go into that stuff with how the rule of two was involved with Darth Bane.
Uh-huh.
You also have storylines like Darth Revan and Malak, in around that time frame too. The war with Mandalore is about around that time.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian War.
They have a lot they can go off of there. That's
yeah,
good.
but I mean, yeah.
And the High
with that
Republic, is that supposed to be a combination of books, TV, and movies, or is it?
That's what they're saying.
Okay, so we're gonna get a
So
bunch on that.
Phase 1 of the High Republic is just books and comics, both young adults, novellas, and comics, right?
Sure.
They have yet to mention what Phase 2 is, so that could mean games, that could be movies, shows.
Okay.
Plans about movies, yeah, they've remained really vague about that.
Yeah.
And for good reason. Like they need some time to build this out. So
yeah.
Well, and also like if it ends up being, I think they know that this idea is a creatively new idea, and that's really awesome.
leap. Yeah.
Sure. And so they know that if they want it to stick, they have to take it slow. They can't just be like, "Hey, here's our 18 new directors that are each filming a trilogy. Oh, wait, crap, we kind of have to slow down a little bit. Let's take all that back, you know?"
That's
So
exactly what they did.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they've learned their lesson. I think they know that if they want something to be a success, they have to let it breathe. They can't just be like, "Oh, Ryan Johnson's making a movie. Oh, also he's getting another trilogy.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys from Game of Thrones, they're getting their own trilogy. You get a trilogy. You get a trilogy. Everyone trilogy."
I frankly, I've lost track. I've lost track of who's doing what now. So we'll see what goes on. Let's.
I think Disney's lost track.
What's that?
Yeah, I think Disney lost track too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, they had so many startups and cancellations. I'm sure they have a written document somewhere. But anyways, let's move on to the second part of our show today, guys. We're going to talk. So last week we discussed about all things Star Wars. And we felt that, honestly, we didn't get enough time to spend on each of the movies. So we're going to start a little bit into a series here. We're going to start with the old trilogy, and we're going to discuss A New Hope tonight. Basically what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, what it did for the culture, what it did for everybody, right? So I guess I'll start it off. Star Wars, right? They had not... The name hadn't been heard before. It's hard for me to even imagine what it would be like, because I've grown up with Star Wars my whole life. But the Star Wars name wasn't even out there. There was no merchandising. There was no at-home marathons of nothing like that existed. And all of a sudden, you have this guy named George Lucas who wants to start this, has this idea. He puts it out there. Wasn't even sure if it was going to be a success. And all of a sudden, the show premieres, the movie premieres, and it's a hit. It changes things. It changes life. I that might sound like I'm being a little fanboy, but honestly, think about it. It changed life. It's history, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think you're 100% right. I think they are staples and icons for a reason. When you think of American pop culture, that is one of the first pieces of media that come to mind in history. It pushed technology into new frontiers for filmmaking. If George didn't take the leaps and steps he did with those movies, fanboy aside, if he didn't take the risk and push that, yeah, sure, maybe someone else could have, but it would have been way down the road. Maybe that envelope didn't get pushed for a long time, and we'd be further back than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on top of lives changing, the movie industry changed a lot with this movie, because apart from like the technology that they use, like a lot of the practical effects and what they were able to do with that, they showed that you can make a movie they didn't use a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of money to make this movie, but they had so much that they wanted to do right.
Yeah.
they were able to make this movie that was widely successful, was widely viewed, everybody loved it. Um, and they did it like we said, with a low budget, and then on top of that, they didn't have any A-listers as like the star roles, right? They brought in a handful of like side characters that were really well known, like the actor that was Moff Tarkin, or Moff Tarkin, and then you had Alec Guinness, Sir Alec Guinness, excuse me. So you had guys like that, right? But you didn't have like as a main as the main character. You didn't have some superstar, right?
Right.
The main cast, the trio of the movie, the main trio, were people that maybe you heard of them, but really they weren't proven. I mean, Harrison Ford was the closest thing to that.
Yeah.
But he had been in like one movie before that, maybe another.
Yeah.
So I think it really showed what you could do. What you could do if given constraints, what kind of creativity could come from those kind of constraints.
Yeah. Well, we lost Kyle there. I'm not sure what happened to Kyle here, but we'll keep...
He had to do an intermission.
Yeah, potty break.
Let's go down to the lobby.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, George Lucas, I don't even think he was at the premiere, right? He wasn't sure how I was going to... I think he was in Hawaii. Don't quote me on that. I heard that. I could be wrong, but I thought he was in like Hawaii or something. He was just extremely nervous, and then turns out people loved the show. And then, so anyway, obviously they had their struggles with Empire, but we'll save that topic for another day. But they had this space opera, like this this space western movie, it hadn't been done before, so it was a huge risk. Yep. How many? I'm sure I know of one, if not multiple people turned it down. Like multiple studios turned it down because it's just like, no way, this ain't going anywhere. And then here we are, fanboys like us all over the world talking about this on a regular basis. So
I think, we talked about this a little bit in the last stream. How I think one of the big reasons why the original Star Wars kind of kicked off the whole series, why it was so popular, is because they took a lot of influences. George Lucas took a lot of influences from around the world, right? You have Western influences, because the movie really felt like a Western in a lot of ways. You had gunslingers and rebelling against the man and all that stuff. It's very Western.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of Eastern themes, with the honor of the Jedi Order and I'm gonna surpass my master in knowledge, that kind of stuff. So you take a lot of those themes and you put them together. And if you do, and obviously it was done well enough to where it became a huge global phenomenon because everybody could relate to it in one way or another.
Sure.
And I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyle, while you were gone, we were just talking about some of the things that Star Wars did for the culture and changing film in general. What wasn't happening, how it was turned down by studios and it turned out to be one of the biggest successes ever. Another success I feel that this gave us was a good character, someone relatable. We got Luke Skywalker that was introduced as this little farm boy, and as we said in our last stream, we talked about Luke and went from this, I want to go to Tennessee Station to pick up some power converters, to a Jedi Knight. And this was the beginning of that. So we have this really awesome character who, frankly naive, gets introduced to the Force through a means that he never thought would even happen to him. And it sets him off on this huge journey that we've all seen and partaken in. But I honestly think there's something, and then, this ties into, what Rian Johnson did to that character. That's another conversation for another day. But the whole Luke story arc is awesome. But I really don't think that's what Star Wars is about. If I were to say if Star Wars was about one character, it'd be about Anakin Skywalker, from the prequels up until Return of the Jedi. Anakin that's kind of where the story revolved around. Yeah, Luke got brought in as main protagonist character. He was the good guy, and then Anakin kind of switched midpoint, obviously, but George Lucas, he knew all. He had this vision in mind to make these. Wasn't sure if he was going to be able to because he thought that the first one was going to fail. But he had that in mind. He knew what he wanted to do from the beginning, and I love that. I love that fact that and that's why honestly I think it feels so good. I don't dislike the prequels. I have my thoughts about them, good and bad, but honestly, we get to see what makes Darth Vader Vader, why he became what he is, and seeing him on screen, one of the most
imposing,
one of the biggest bad guys on film to date. At that time, it was great. I mean, anyways, that's one thing I've always liked about Star Wars is just this whole story arc of not only Luke but his father Anakin. So, Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, Star Wars. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Brady. Whoever wants to talk.
Just it was just one point. It was Star Wars made family cool before the Fast and Furious ever did.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's what Star Wars, the whole Star Wars story is about. Is about Anakin and his family.
Yeah.
About a spoiled, rotten little brats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even going on to the sequels, it's not like it still revolves around the Skywalker.
It was about his family. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Kyle?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And I mean there's a reason why I can go on about Anakin because like to me, Anakin and Obi-Wan, their relationship and like what they do throughout the Star Wars, that's the core of the story, you know. If it was just if they weren't, how do I say, if they weren't in the movies and if we didn't follow through their eyes, then the stories would not be nearly as significant. I feel like if Mandalorian was all we had, sure, that'd be a cool Western space movie, but the compellingness was like how you said from the certain characters that they chose to start off with, Luke, old Ben, you know, but then in the prequels going on to Anakin, those staple characters made us care about the larger world because of their character traits.
Yeah. I think there's something to that for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys have any dislikes? What do you think? Dislikes about the first Star Wars?
It felt campy at times.
What do you think brought that on? Is it acting or writing, or what do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think one can't exist without the other.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the actors being relatively new to acting showed that they, it showed that they weren't experienced, right?
Right.
So that's something to do with it. But on top of that, there were some interesting choices with writing, but I think overall it kind of added to its charm. So even its fault bolstered it in a way.
Yeah.
Which you can't do that on purpose. Or does he? I don't know. Maybe he did it on purpose, and then he's just George Lucas is a genius, and we've just never thought that out loud. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
But yeah,
I think if I were to give a dislike to A New Hope, it wouldn't really necessarily be anything towards the movie itself, if that makes sense. More centered around the fandom and the culture that like it is the holy grail. Be like A New Hope cannot be criticized. A New Hope cannot be A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, like they cannot be criticized. They cannot be touched. Any other Star Wars is fecal matter compared to such glorious icons. So
I honestly think that's because they're original. Like it wasn't until Return of the Jedi came around that you kind of had a little bit of a copycat going on with a bigger, better
sure.
And all that. But both of those were very original. And you're right. I think that is kind of a fault, because people hold those in such a high esteem, and you can. There are some critiques, like Brady said, with the campiness and reading or the writing of it all, and I get that. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I said this in the last stream we did. My biggest complaint about the movie is honestly the technology wasn't there to make it this spectacular thing that George Lucas wanted it to be. Am I glad he made it? Of course. I wouldn't want him oh, I regret making Star Wars. No.
Sure.
Why was it made?
It was great, but obviously there's a reason why George Lucas came back later and added all the things he did with the visual effects and things. He said it for years that he wanted that stuff in there originally, just the technology wasn't there. And so that's my biggest complaint, is that the technology, when they came back and put it in, it just threw it off a little bit. I liked it. It's eye candy. Yeah, it's great. It's eye candy, but it's like, it's not, it almost doesn't belong in that movie because.
Which, if you think about with after saying that, how incredible is it that you watch Rogue One and you're like, yeah, this feels right. This feels like it feels like it should take place right before New Hope.
Yeah.
How amazing is that?
I think that comes down to sound effects. It comes down to sound effects. It comes down to where they shot their studios. The word escapes me, but like the Yavin Temple, having the exact props in where
the scenes and all that.
Exactly. That I think played in that. That's how we feel. But keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that they really respected where Star Wars came from, and I think it showed by the reception from the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, I think one of the things that we kind of take for granted is that we do have all those special effects now. When the Star Wars movies first came out, that was amazing.
Sure.
That was like, we had no idea, no imagination even to think that it could look any better than it did.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, given time, yeah, sure. We're like, obviously Rogue One did it. Why, the technology has gone so much farther. But I think, to take a step back, I think, given the time, given when it did come out, it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why sci-fi was such a niche genre back then, but it's not now. And I think Star Wars has played a huge role in that. Star Wars made sci-fi into one of the most popular genres of film, novelization, comic. It's not nerdy anymore to like sci-fi stuff.
Right.
Or maybe it is. I'm just in denial.
I think it's one thing to be a nerd, and it's another thing to geek out about something.
What is a nerd anymore, anyways?
I think it has no classification. When I was growing up in school, you made fun of getting a nerd. Now I don't think it's a thing.
Cool kids in high school are wearing SpongeBob
It's
SquarePants
completely
shirts to school.
changed.
Right.
Like, come on.
It's all
I would
about
have
the
been
meme
beaten
now.
up at school for that.
Yeah.
Come on.
And also talking about practical a little chasing down the rabbit hole here. That gallery show about the Mandalorian, or maybe it wasn't that. Anyways, come to find out, physical practical props. How episode 4 was really good at. Which episode had the most practical props? Out of all 9.
Force Awakens.
Out of all
Force
9,
Awakens.
Out of
Force
all
Awakens,
9 episodes, which one had the most practical props?
Force Awakens.
Or Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Really?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, you got to be kidding me, because
Those droids,
that's one of the biggest complaints people have about that movie, is there's too much CG. That had the most practical props out of anything, from miniatures to whatever. It had the most. I thought that was interesting.
I think George Lucas had been pent up about those prequel movies that he just popped off right off the beginning and was like, we're doing everything.
Yeah.
We're doing CGI. We're doing practical. We're doing everything.
I mean, I like the CGI.
Frogman, put him in.
If technology was there, let's face it. If technology was there when Episode 4 came out, it would look very similar to what we see in 1, 2, and 3. That's kind of how I think.
Yes, yeah, but I think for that reason, I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah. I
agree. Again, going back to our discussion about creative constraints, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine a world where that movie wouldn't have come out in that time period, and
Sure.
what we would have seen if different. Yeah.
Agreed. What do you think,
Agreedo.
Kyle? You any negatives?
No, I think.
Go ahead.
I mean, no, I don't really have anything to add there. I think that you guys hit the nail on the head there.
I did it real good.
Well, I think that's all we really wanted to talk about for tonight. Honestly, I think we're gonna probably continue on with this kind of format. Let's come back together, maybe once a week, maybe other week, and let's discuss Star Wars news, and talk about the movies, because why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, before we close it out,
Sure.
quick little couple tidbits if you're into Star Wars and Star Wars games.
Yeah.
Uh, over the last week, we've been seeing some stuff coming out about Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Some new
Thank you.
expansion stuff.
Okay.
Nothing like too crazy, but it's actually a pretty substantial update for a single player game.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have anything story wise, but it Respawn, the developers behind the game, have launched a campaign plus type of situation.
Yeah.
Where when you beat the game, you can restart the story, but you restart the story with all of your upgrades that you ended with
Oh.
in your last playthrough.
New game.
So
plus.
basically, new game plus. There it is.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
A lot of other single players kind of already had that feature. I was wondering why this one didn't. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But
so
there was that. There was that, and then there was they added like a battle mode in it where you could like create you can create a grid of bad guys and fight them in waves and stuff.
Which is
Kyle
super
probably
weird.
knows.
'Cause have you seen a lot of gameplay of that?
No, I haven't.
It performs very, very similarly to what a multiplayer version of the game would look like, in my opinion. So I don't know if they have plans to do that in the next game, but it's pretty much you set up with characters, and it's just this big fight, and it's a little chaotic at times, but it's also because I think there's like not a lot. It's not like it wouldn't be meant for multiplayer as it stands right now. There would be some tweaking need to be made, but it definitely like immediately when I saw, I'm like, there's a multiplayer mode right there. Like that would be awesome.
Some co-op.
Yeah.
And
That'd be cool.
it actually had good lightsaber combat, so there's
awesome.
Replay value to it for sure.
Yeah, it's not heroes versus villains in Battlefront.
Speaking of Battlefront, comes our next little tidbit of news for games. Scarif.
Yeah.
The last update. Yep.
It's
and then
sad.
Yeah, that's the last update we're getting to that game. They're ending the life cycle.
Yeah.
But they did say that they're gonna do one last update, but it's gonna be like a technical update. They're gonna do some balancing, some touch-ups, then they're done.
And it needs it. You know, with a new map coming out, it's going to be a little glitchy. There's going to be some things they need to comb over.
It's got the DICE amount of polish, and if you've played DICE games, you know what I mean.
Right.
If you don't, go play one, and then you'll quickly become familiar.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's rejoin it.
Go
ahead. Go ahead.
On top, since we were talking about Jedi Fallen Order as well, there was one last thing about that, is that Disney announced that they see Jedi Fallen Order as a start of a franchise.
Yes, I did read that. Thank you. I did read that.
So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So they're building on it. Respawn is already hiring people.
Okay.
And in the job descriptions, it's all about, hey, we're working on the next addition to the franchise of Jedi Fallen Order.
And
I don't know. I imagine it'll just become Star Wars Jedi : whatever the sequel's name is.
Sure.
So
right. Yeah. It won't be necessarily a Fallen Order, but it could be like
2.
Brady, real quick, tell the audience you're a motion capture guy, not for Respawn, but you go tell us a little bit about that. What you do.
So one of the reasons why I have my ear so close to the ground on game stuff and like the tech stuff is that I work in a motion capture studio for 2K games. So a lot of the technology you see with characters when they get into those really skin tight suits with the little balls that are all around them that glow, that's called motion capture. Am I talking the right thing here?
Yeah, you're probably
on the right track.
Skin tight suits, balls, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And it glows.
So you get it. Yeah, you get to have your ear to the ground a little bit more. I don't know if you want to call it for competitive reasons, but you definitely are in the industry, so you hear a lot about video games and what's coming up and what you got to compete with in a way. So that's cool. Brady, where can if somebody wants to ask you more questions about that, do you mind? How can they get a hold of you?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that question before. No one really likes talking to me.
Well, apparently two
I don't
people
know.
do. So,
Oh, cool.
How
Hey
about
guys,
this?
I two my
I'll
biggest
put your
fans.
if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I'm gonna put it in the description of the video.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll put my I don't know
yeah, and you can
a
get a
social media
so yeah,
thing.
if you're just watching this now, if you're not live with us, if you're watching this recorded, just go down and look in the description. You'll see Brady's information there. And then Kyle, like we've talked about Kyle before, he's been on our show. He has his own YouTube channel. Definitely encourage you to go check it out. It's Vanilla Soup. Kyle, tell us about what that channel is.
relating to games, movies, anime, it's a big party over there. Do lots of live streams. Just did a stream over the new Xbox Series X gameplay reveal. Gameplay. So,
Gameplay.
Gameplay.
game,
Yeah.
so
I
yeah,
was
we
I wanted to get on that one. I was busy at the time, but I'll have to go back
yeah.
and watch that. So yeah, you
I'll
are you have your ear
later.
to the ground too, because you obviously you're on your channel based on video games a lot. So
Media stuff.
definitely a credible source if you're interested in following somebody who knows their stuff about video games. Go check out Vanilla Soup. Do you have what's your web address? Is it www.youtube.com/vanilla soup? Would that be
Yeah,
fair say?
that
So
would be it.
that'll also be in the description below as well,
Amazing.
so you can click on his channel. Go hit that
Check
subscribe button for him as well. If you're joining us for the first time, the Campbell Chronicles, my name's Robert. The Campbell Chronicles, we just started this channel. This channel's all about Disney, family, and travel. Star Wars obviously is now falling under the realms of Disney, so that's why we're talking about it here. Please feel
Squeaked
free
it in there.
Yeah, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, guys, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure. You guys want to say goodbye?
See you later.
All
Yeah,
right.
the force will be with you
Short spirit.
always.
All right,
Something like
guys. We'll
that.
see you
Or
real
join the
soon.
dark side. I don't know. Whatever you want to do.